This video is the final part of our Applying to Oxford series and the second part of our Interviews at Oxford video. My name's Luke, I am the Student Recruitment Manager at St Edmund Hall, which is one of the colleges of the University of Oxford. In the previous video, Lizzie discussed what interviews at Oxford are like and how to prepare for them. If you haven't watched this already, you can click the card in the top right corner or the link in the video description. This video will cover the practicalities of interviews at Oxford in 2020. Now this year, all interviews are going to be held remotely using Microsoft Teams. Now you won't need a Microsoft account to join these, but you will need a computer that either has the Teams app installed or can access Teams in a browser. Currently, the only two browsers that fully support Microsoft Teams are Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge. So if you're using Firefox or you have a Mac with Safari, then you should either install the Teams app or one of these two supported browsers. You'll also need a computer that has a webcam, a microphone and speakers, although if all of these are integrated into your device such as a laptop or you want to use a headset, then that's absolutely fine. So let's first discuss how you would find out that you've been shortlisted for interview. This would happen in late November or early December, and you would likely first receive an email that tells you that you've been shortlisted for interview. It will contain information on when your interviews are scheduled to take place, as well as guidance on technology and equipment that you will require for your interview, which we'll discuss later in this video. The exact date and time of your interview, as well as the link to join the Teams meeting, is likely to follow in a subsequent email closer to the time. However, it may well be that the first email you receive contains all the information in one go, including the link to join the Teams meeting. However, if you're remotely unsure, please just get in touch with the college that has been corresponding with you. Remember as well that it's likely that you will have more than one interview, and so will likely receive more than one calendar invite to the separate Teams meetings for your interviews. We will aim to give at least 24 hours notice to any additional interviews that you are invited to. So let's walk through how you would join an interview using one of the links that we've provided. Once you click the link, your web browser will load a page that looks like this. And if you've got the Teams app installed, then a prompt like this might appear, and if you click Open in Microsoft Teams, you can join the meeting from there. If not, you can just click Continue on this browser. Either way, you'll be met with a screen that looks like this, the lobby. You can enter your name below if it hasn't been entered for you already, and make sure that your microphone and webcam are both turned on. Once you're ready, you can click Join, and that will notify the interviewers that you're waiting. If the interviewers are already in the meeting, then you'll see a message like this appear. And if you join the meeting before the interviewers, then you'll see a slightly different message, but the idea is still the same. The interviewers will be notified that you're waiting and will admit you as soon as they're ready. Because we're running interviews throughout the day, it is possible that they can start to run a little bit behind schedule. So don't worry if you're left waiting in the lobby a few minutes after your scheduled interview time. If we are anticipating delays in when interviews are taking place, then we'll do our best to let you know, but you should always make sure that you're in the lobby and waiting at the specified time of your interview. Once you've been admitted into the interview, you should be able to see and hear the interviewers on screen, as well as see a preview of yourself in the corner. Depending on the size of your screen, Teams might only show one interviewer at a time, but it will always show the person who is currently speaking, so it shouldn't have an impact on your interview. If at any point you can't see or hear what the interviewers are doing, if the connection is bad, then just let the interviewers know, and then they are aware and they can repeat themselves if necessary. If the call drops completely, don't worry, you can rejoin using the same link, you'll just be put back in the lobby and the tutors will be able to readmit you. If connection issues mean that the call cannot continue, don't worry, we will reschedule the interview as soon as we can. So hopefully that alleviates any concerns you might have with joining an interview. The best thing to do is to practice beforehand, ideally using Microsoft Teams and with the device that you'll be using in your interviews. If it's not possible to test a call using Microsoft Teams, making a video call through another platform will at least allow you to test that your webcam, microphone and speakers are all working. Now, alongside using Microsoft Teams for the video call, some subjects will be requiring additional technology to be used to ensure that the interview is as useful as possible. We've split our subjects into 3 tiers, Tier 1, Tier 2 and Tier 3. And the next part of this video will detail how these technologies will be used and what you'll need to do to prepare. So you should pause the video at this point, find your subject and skip to the relevant time in the video to hear about what you'll need to do. For Tier 1 subjects, there are no additional technology requirements. You'll need to be able to join the interview using Microsoft Teams, as we've discussed, and your interviewer might share their screen to show a passage of text to you, but you won't be expected to share your screen. You'll also need to hand some paper and pens for making any notes, a copy of your UCAS personal statement and any written work that you submitted, as well as any pre-interview reading that you might have been given to look at before the interview. And for these things, if possible, they should be printed out and physically in front of you, as it will be much easier to refer to them there than to be switching between tabs on your computer. And that's it for Tier 1, so you can now skip to the next part of the video. For Tier 2 subjects, you'll need to be able to join the interview using Microsoft Teams, as we've discussed, and you'll also need to have access to interactive whiteboard software Miro. More on that in a minute. You'll also need to hand some paper and pens for notes, and you may be asked to show some of these notes up to your camera so that the interviewer can see them. You should also have a copy of your personal statement and any written work that you submitted, as well as any pre-interview reading that you might have been given in advance of the interview to look over. And these should be printed out in front of you rather than as PDFs on your computer, as it will be much easier to refer to them physically than to have them as tabs switching between on your computer. So what's Miro and how does it work? Well, Miro is an interactive whiteboard tool and it's based within your web browser. And for Tier 2 subjects, it will be used for things like adding basic markings, annotating an image, or adding text. Now, you should make an account at Miro.com before your first interview, and it's worth testing it out to make sure you're familiar with how it works. And then prior to or at the start of your interview, you'll be sent a link that you can use to access one of these interactive boards. And this will be accessible by you and the interviewing tutors. And during the interview, the interviewers might annotate the whiteboard, they might add mathematical notation, they might add images or diagrams for you to then contribute to. The only things that you will be expected to use the whiteboard for are for making basic markings, highlighting or pointing to parts of an existing image, or typing in small amounts of text. You won't be expected to write out any complex mathematical notation, and anything that you will need to interact with on the whiteboard can be done using a mouse or a touchpad on a laptop. And that's it for Tier 2, so you can now skip to the next part in the video. For Tier 3 subjects, you will need to be able to join the interview using Microsoft Teams, as we've discussed. You will also need to have access to online interactive whiteboard software Miro, and more on that in a minute. You'll also need to have access to a touchscreen device with a stylus, so either a tablet or a touchscreen laptop. The screen size needs to be at least 8 inches, so a phone won't do. You'll also need to have in front of you some paper and pens to make notes, and the interviews may ask you to show some of these notes up to your camera, although they're more than likely going to refer to using the whiteboard software, which we will come to. You should also have a copy of your UCAS personal statement, any written work that you submitted, and if you were given any, the pre-interview reading that you were asked to look at beforehand. These things should be printed out rather than PDFs on your computer, as it will be much easier to refer to them physically than to be constantly switching windows on the device that you're using for your interview. So what's Miro and how does it work? Well, Miro is an interactive whiteboard tool and it works from within your web browser. And for Tier 3 subjects, it will be used for things like annotating images, writing out mathematical notation, or sketching diagrams. And that's where the touchscreen device comes in, because we're going to be expecting you to write out notation or sketch diagrams in a way that it wouldn't be feasible to do these things using a mouse or a touchpad on a laptop. And so making sure you have a touchscreen device with a stylus will mean that you can make the most of using the whiteboard software. You should make an account before your first interview using Miro.com, and it's worth testing it out to make sure you're familiar with how it works using the device that you have. And then shortly before or at the start of your interview, you'll be sent a link to join an interactive whiteboard, and this will be accessible by you and the interviewers. And during the interview, the interviewers might use the whiteboard to share images or diagrams, they might use it to write mathematical notation, and they will ask you to do things like writing mathematical notation yourself, sketching diagrams, or annotating existing images that are on there. You may also be asked to type text using the text tool, but these are all things that you'll be able to do using the touchscreen device that you have. So hopefully that's clarified how things will work for your subject and tier. There is lots more information though available on our website. As part of our remote interviews, we'll be asking all students to follow a code of conduct to make sure that no individual is given an advantage or a disadvantage as part of their application. You must not share in any form the content of interviews with others, including with teachers or other applicants. And you must not research online or share any materials given to you as part of a pre-interview reading exercise, unless you are explicitly told you can research these online beforehand. You must not record or permit anyone else to record interviews. And you should take part in interviews yourself, and you should not ask or allow anyone else to impersonate your identity fraudulently. Any applicant who breaches any aspect of these codes of conduct is seriously at risk of having their application withdrawn. So that covers a quick overview of how remote interviews are going to work this year at Oxford. But there is a lot more information available on our website. You can find out more about all the things discussed in here, as well as some really helpful FAQs at ox.ac.uk/interviews. This video was made by St Edmund Hall, which is one of the colleges of the University of Oxford. If you'd like to find out more about us and how you can apply, you can visit seh.ac/apply.